Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to another program of Community Wellness. I'm an emergency preparedness nurse coordinator at MGH at 3 health centers, and I've done a lot of community nursing and visiting nursing and community activism. So for me, community wellness is something very close to my heart and something that I'm very, very passionate about. I think there are ways we can, guests we can have and information we can share with you and education that we can share with you that can make your lives better and that you can share with your family and friends to make their lives better. So today we have a special guest. I'm so excited. We have Dr. Marie Pasinski, who's a neurologist at MGH at 3 health centers in Revere, Chelsea, and Charlestown. And she's worked for MGH for 24 years and has vast experience with neurology. She loves the brain and the possibilities of the brain and the power of the brain. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pasinski, and thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you, Pat. It's great to be here.
Oh, it's great. And what made you get involved with focusing on the brain and boosting your brain power?
So I'm a neurologist, and I love what I do. The brain is endlessly fascinating. So I care for patients that have any type of brain or nervous system problem. And one of the things I've really developed a passion for is sharing with people what they can do to keep their brain healthy and vibrant, because we don't have a lot of treatments for neurologic conditions, and so prevention is just so important.
Yes. Are there things that we can do to boost our brain power?
Absolutely. What's really exciting to me is there have been a number of studies showing that the lifestyle choices we make do have a huge impact. One study showed that up to 50% of cases of Alzheimer's disease are due to 7 modifiable risk factors. So that's really huge when you think about it.
Wow.
So we can't change our genes, but there are lifestyle changes that we can make.
Yes, there are things that we can do. And we can do this to prevent, and also if somebody has some of those disabilities or some issues, you can do that to help yourself improve your brain.
Right.
So it's preventative as well as treatment of keeping your brain boosted. And
yeah, so for anyone who wants to keep their brain healthy,
yes,
I recommend this. But also if someone is having neurologic problems, there are things you can do to improve your brain function and, slow down the progression of different diseases. And again, especially Alzheimer's is
yes,
one thing I'm interested in.
Yes, I know. I think we've all been touched by Alzheimer's. I know I'm sure everybody knows somebody or somebody's family or somebody's friend who has been affected by Alzheimer's. And it's a frightening disease, and the more we can do to prevent it and to empower ourselves to be knowledgeable about what we can do is so important. What are some of the modifiable risk factors? What are some of the things that, modifiable meaning, can you explain what that means?
So these are things that you can change.
Yes.
By this one study, there are 7 modifiable risk factors, which include hypertension, midlife obesity, diabetes, smoking, depression, cognitive inactivity, and physical inactivity.
Ah, so those are things that you can focus on. What are some things that you can do to help with your brain to deal with all of this?
Well, one of the most interesting things is the #1 risk factor in the U.S. is physical inactivity.
Wow.
And that's something that's so easy to change.
Yes.
And one of the things I find really interesting about exercise physiology, kind of a hot topic in it, is this whole idea of avoiding prolonged sitting.
Yes.
Because we realize that when we sit for a prolonged period of time, our blood sugar starts to rise and our cortisol level starts to rise.
Oh.
And just getting up for 2 minutes can decrease our cortisol level and our blood sugar level. And that's wonderful news. And I think we need to put more emphasis on that rather than getting in your 45-minute or half-hour workout a day. You're going to counteract those those benefits if you're sitting the rest of the day.
And so many people are sitting doing work at the computer or sitting watching TV for prolonged periods of time. It's an easy thing to do, a 2-minute to get up and just walk around and get moving for a short time. So important.
Yeah, I used to, sit at my computer for hours on end, and then after reading these studies, I now get up every 30 minutes. And before I used to set a timer, and now I've got one of these fitness bands that has a little idle alert in it. And I have it set for 30 minutes, so if I'm sitting here for more than 30 minutes, as I probably will be,
and so during
it'll
the program you can get up and do a little movement.
Actually, I often do that during my talks, is I'll put on some music and just get the audience up for 2 minutes, and then sit them back down and say, we just lowered our cortisol level and our glucose levels.
I was at one of your talks when you were speaking to some Harvard doctors, and the talk was you were fascinating, and you did that with us, and it was really fun. Not only was it feel good, but it was fun. So you can have fun when you do these things too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really encourage people to put on music too, because it makes us move. It encourages us to move a little more, and so I do that all the time, like around my house when I'm cooking. I'll turn on some music and just kind of dance and get a little more movement in.
So you live what you preach.
I do,
which is very, very powerful, because you are living, you're studying it, and you're doing what will help you, and what is keeping you healthy and vibrant and smart, and that's why you could remember the 7 cognitive, the 7 modifiable. So what else can people do?
So that's one. Another thing is diet.
Diet, yes.
The diet that we eat is very important.
Yes.
For 2 reasons. One is that the building blocks of our brain come from our diet, and the brain is actually 2/3 fat. And so the fats that you consume are the fats that are incorporated into your brain. And so it's really important to eat healthy fats.
Yes.
So one of the best sources of fat is olive oil, and then also fish oils.
Oh, excellent. Yes. How about avocado?
Yeah, no, avocado is a great source of monosaturated fats.
And it's so nice. For a while there, they were saying, no, avoid all fat. No fat is bad. And I think it's so nice when it comes back to what we really need, the simple diet that we should be balancing, the balancing of fat and non-fat and other things that we should be eating healthily. What else for eating?
So that's important. The other thing is eating what's called a low glycemic index diet. So that means foods that are absorbed very slowly. The sugars are absorbed slowly, because if you consume something like sugar or flour, say, or white rice, there's a big spike in your blood sugar, which then causes a big spike in your insulin level, and that's pro-inflammatory. It causes inflammation in the blood vessels that supply the brain, as well as the brain itself. And so I really recommend a diet that has what's called a low glycemic index.
What are some examples of that?
So fresh vegetables, legumes, whole grains, like having oatmeal, say, instead of cold cereal.
Yes, okay.
Your blood sugar rises much more slowly.
Yes.
And then you don't get that insulin spike.
And with fruits also, even if they're sweet.
Yeah, the whole fruits are good. The fruit juices can actually cause that spike, but it's also what you eat together as a meal. So if you have fruit, but you also have some fat with it, and the fiber of the fruit, that'll make the blood sugar go up slower.
Excellent. And what about? Go ahead.
Oh, so I was just going to say. Really, the best diet for the brain is a Mediterranean style diet, and there've been countless studies that show that that's the best diet for your brain. It decreases your risk of stroke and of dementia.
And it's delicious.
It is, yeah.
I've been to Italy many times, and
oh, lucky you.
Yes, and it's very good eating over there. And what else is good? What else did you want to talk about as far as boosting your brain? What are some things we can do?
So another important thing is to stay mentally active.
Yes.
And this is what I call indulge in the new. So just opening yourself up to new experiences and new learning. You know, often as we get older, we kind of use our brain in the same way. We're solving the same kinds of problems. You know, our days have these routines to them that we're not really challenging our mind. And I often ask people to, you know, think back when you were in school. You know, you were constantly bombarded by new information, new concepts. You were meeting new people, going new places, trying new things, learning new skills, and you know, your brain is just immersed in this, you know, these wonderful new experiences, and that's great for your brain.
Yes.
And it promotes the growth of new brain cells and new connections.
That's wonderful, and that's also fun, also, because it ends up you do different things that you didn't know that you could have fun and learn from.
It enriches your brain.
Yeah.
And your life, your whole life too.
That's why travel, I think, is so fun for people, because it just
absolutely.
knocks everything around, and it's just so. And it's always nice to come home, but to travel, everything's new, and you have to learn how to adjust to all these new situations.
And just simple things like, you know, learning the layout of a new city.
Right.
Learning a new language is wonderful, but just exposure to new things. And you know, I often encourage people to, you know, just start small to introduce new things into our lives.
Yes.
You know, there's no reason, physiologic reason, we can't immerse our brain in all these wonderful new experiences when we're older, just like we did when we were younger.
Right.
And it just starts with making small changes.
Yes.
So, you know, stopping at a new place to get your coffee in the morning, you know, you might notice a flyer for, you know, a show or a gallery opening. You go to that show, and then you run into someone you haven't seen in a while, who then invites you to join their book club or whatever. And the wonderful thing about new experiences is they tend to snowball.
Yes. That's
and it just, you know, kind of makes you're exposed to many more new experiences.
That's wonderful advice. What else? I want
to
hear everything.
Well, but to really boost the benefits of you know, making new brain cells and making new connections in your brain, you really have to challenge your brain.
Right.
So if you can, what I recommend is people to, you know, think about, you know, what is it that you've always wanted to do but you've never done?
Yeah.
Now is the time to do it. It'd be great for your brain.
Yes.
You know, I have one patient who was complaining of memory problems. She was like in her late 40s, and she just felt like her memory wasn't as good as it used to be, and she checked out fine. You know, everything was normal, but she wasn't really challenging her mind, and so I suggested that she take up, you know, something new, something fun, and she took up singing.
Wow.
And as part of the singing, she had to memorize the lyrics to all these songs. And you know, what so interesting was she noticed an improvement in her memory. You know, that kind of transferred to other aspects of her life.
And she had fun doing it.
And she had fun doing it. Yeah, it's actually kind of become a new career for her. She's doing some singing on the side. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What else? What else?
So any kind of new activity you can learn, you know, I encourage people to make it a multifaceted experience. So say, for example, you wanted to learn more about Italian culture. You know, you could study the language, dine at restaurants that serve Italian food, and try to pronounce the dishes.
Yes.
You know, get to know people who speak the language.
Yes.
Travel there if you can.
Yeah.
You know, get a recipe book that's written in Italian. And
walk through the North End.
That's true, yeah.
Oh,
And there are just so many ways to make it, you know, fun and enriching, and all of that is just great for your brain, because we know that when our brain is exposed to new information, that actually stimulates the release of this growth hormone called BDNF, which it's like Miracle Grow for your brain.
Wow.
If you take this BDNF and you sprinkle it on a petri dish of neurons, they actually start branching out and making
Dancing.
new connections.
Dancing. Wow.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff, and so that's released when you are exposed to new things.
Wow, that's
And
fascinating.
there really is no physiologic reason we can't challenge our minds more as
Absolutely.
as we get older, and it's fun, it's enriching. And I just realized I did not mention depression as
Yes.
did I mention depression?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I think I may have left it out.
Okay, yes, that's fine.
But that is one of those 7 modifiable risk factors. And when you're engaging in new activities, doing something that you enjoy, that really boosts your spirits,
Yes.
and it's a great antidote to
Even simply,
feeling
like
blue.
if you're feeling even just low energy or depressed, just taking a walk. What an amazing change that can bring your day. Just to get out, get the air, do something different. As simple as that.
Oh, I think there's a lot to being outside.
Yes.
It kind of stimulates our visual system more. The sunshine is great for
And now
us.
that's the winter, that we don't have to climb through 9 feet of snow.
That's right.
It's much better. What are some other things? I know what about sleep? Can we talk about sleep?
Sure.
Because sleep seems to be something that so many people have problems with.
Yeah, so we're realizing that sleep is very important. That's when your brain actually makes new neurons. And also while you sleep, we clear what's called beta amyloid, which is the toxic substance that builds up in Alzheimer's disease.
Oh.
And so there's this kind of growing body of research suggesting that getting quality sleep is really important, not only to keep you mentally clear the next day, improve your focus, but actually over the long term as well.
Do you have a lot of patients with sleeping issues?
I do. So.
And what do you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important for people to know that they shouldn't just brush it off, and I think too often that's the case. People think, well, I don't need that much sleep,
Right.
Or don't really realize what an important
Right.
thing sleep is for our health. And so if someone is having sleep problems, I really recommend that they talk to their doctor about it and get treatment for it, because there is treatment out there. And
Yes.
if your general physician can't take care of it, there's sleep specialists that that's their area of expertise, and
Right.
often they can find something to help you.
Yes, try things before medication, because I know medication is used, and that's fine for if you need medication, but before you go to medication, and as a nurse and a doctor, as we see, if there's things you can do in your own life yourself, it's certainly worth trying. So you don't have to go on medication if you don't need to.
Right.
We talk about, how about mastering your mind? I know that's one of the steps that you talk about, and can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so that means taking charge of your thoughts. So every time you think a specific thought, you're actually firing a very specific pathway of neurons in the brain. And what's kind of neat about the brain is the more you think along that pathway, the stronger that pathway becomes. You kind of reinforce it every time you think that
Right.
thought. And this can be a good thing or a bad thing.
Right.
It's how good habits are formed and bad habits are formed. And so when we're worried about something and we're kind of stuck on a worry loop, to our detriment, we're actually reinforcing these negative brain pathways.
Wow.
Every time we think that worrisome thought.
Right.
But the beauty of the brain is that we can choose to think differently. Instead of thinking a negative thought, we can replace that with a positive thought. And the more you make yourself do that and think the positive thought, you'll build up that positive thought pathway over time.
Wow.
And the reason it works is because your brain can only think one thought at a time.
So you can
think about it.
Yeah.
It's impossible to think 2 thoughts. So when a negative thought comes in, you replace it with a positive thought.
Right.
You'll start building up that positive thought pathway. And just on a personal note,
Yes.
I've found this an incredibly valuable tool. my youngest son was working abroad this past year, and of course there are all these worrisome thoughts that come into my head. And what I did is I developed this little mantra that a little prayer I would say whenever I had a worrisome thought. I would say, may you be safe, may you find joy, and may you grow from this experience. And I would just repeat that to myself. And it's amazing to me how powerful that is. Because when I'm thinking these worrisome thoughts, I feel myself kind of
stopping breathing, like
closing up and
yes.
Feeling tense. But when I'm wishing him well, I don't know, there's this calm that I feel and a joy too.
Yes. It's
and
empowering for your brain, empowering for your life.
It is, and it's just such a simple, powerful tool. And as a neurologist, I just find it so cool to think about what's happening in my brain. That I'm building up these positive thought pathways, and it, your brain is really a creature of habit, and so over time, you kind of immediately go to that thought pathway that you've been reinforcing.
Retraining your mind.
Yeah.
It's even interesting when you see two people with similar diseases and the same age, similar disease symptoms, but one of them will have a better attitude, will be able to do more, be more positive, and because they're more positive, because their brain is more trained to be more positive. And I think some people are more optimistic than others, but I think this empowers people to understand that you can take control of your mind and you can change your patterns. So if you are worrying about something, that there are things that you can do, and it's so empowering. It's wonderful to take the power back and empower yourself and your brain and everyone around you, because it's contagious, right?
I know, and and it's so simple, and yet we often don't give it the attention that we should, or the importance that we should. I mean, I don't think anything is more important than modeling your brain to think in a positive way, to think in a way that's going to improve your life and make your life better. I mean, I can't think of a better investment than that.
Exactly.
It will improve every aspect of your life.
Yeah, what's more important than that? And what are we busy doing that's more important than that?
All our little chores.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I really encourage people to, take a couple of minutes in the morning when they first wake up, and then at bedtime, and just pick out a short phrase, something that's meaningful to you, something that is positive, and just repeat that to yourself just over and over again. And if you do that regularly, in a short period of time, it will start to become a habit and just part of your brain, part of your life.
Right. Change your physiology, change your attitude. So many people find so much comfort in meditation and yoga. A lot of my friends are doing that and loving that, and when I meditate, it's amazing. But I don't do it regularly enough, so I need to. But do you recommend meditation?
Yeah, I think whatever works for you. I think I look at like meditation and yoga and dance and tai chi and all these things, or even just going for a walk.
Yeah.
And contemplating to yourself. All means to the same end.
Yes.
That it just kind of changes the way you're thinking. I mean, one thing I find really neat is every experience we have changes our brain.
Wow.
And when you really think about the impact of that, it's pretty powerful. And so we have the ability to change our brain for the better.
Wow. That's wonderful. What are some of the things, we have only 3 minutes left, but I want to, so what are your favorite things that you like to do to keep your brain? So I know you said you like to tell me, what do you do personally? I know your mantra, you like to move.
I love to dance.
You love to dance.
And for me, dancing it's a celebration of being able to move my body.
Yes.
And what I love about the classes that I take is that they're hour-and-a-half classes, but they go by in no time at all.
Yes,
because you're moving to music. I think it's important to find a teacher that inspires you, you know,
Yes.
that a class that you find fun.
Yes.
That's one thing I really emphasize to people is, you know, do something that you love. And even when it comes to movement, you know, think to yourself, has there ever been a time I've enjoyed moving my body?
Right.
And, you know, whatever that is, bring more of that into your life.
Right.
Maybe it is just going for a walk or playing with grandkids.
Right. Right, you don't have to run a marathon for your first.
Right, absolutely not.
For your first movement or dance for an hour and a half, but you can just walk or just move.
Mm-hmm. And you know, for people who can't walk, there's chair yoga.
Yes.
There are lots of other ways of movement too.
At the health centers now, we're stressing wellness with staff, which is really wonderful. The companies and corporations that are actually.
Isn't that great?
I love it. It's just such a wonderful thing, and how important, how simple and obvious is that, but how important it is to take a little time out of our day to take care of ourselves, so that we can therefore take better care of our patients.
Yeah, I've been taking one of the exercise classes at lunchtime, and it's such a nice break from my day, because I'm, you know, sitting at a desk and running in and out of my office all morning. But to, you know, take that time to be with these other employees, there's a sense of camaraderie.
Yes.
That I like being in a group,
Being
working
together.
out with a group. Yeah.
And that's another thing with a lot of people, whether you like to do it alone. Some people like to just run or exercise alone, or some people like to be with a group and having the camaraderie. So I think it's a personal decision. So nothing is right. Everything is personal. So there's no right answer. It's what's good for you. As long as you can do these simple things, simple movement, simple sleeping enough, eating correctly, and trying to reschedule your mind to think positive thoughts.
Yeah, I think of the brain as like a work of art in progress, and you know, from this day forward, you can make your brain better.
That's
And,
wonderful.
You know, I'd like people to think about, you know, what can I do for my brain today?
Yes, yes, yes. Your beautiful brain, right? Our beautiful,
Beautiful
brains. We're so lucky to have our brains and so much potential and possibility. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
so
my
much.
pleasure. My
so
pleasure.
nice of you to come. I'm looking forward
enjoyed
to
this.
you sharing more information with us, and I'm
I'd love
dreaming of
to.
you doing a TED Talk, and I'm going to push on that because this is such important stuff. Thank you, and the audience will learn so much from this today, and it's simple, but it's so powerful, and thank you for your contributions to our health and to our well-being and to our brains.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today for Community Wellness. We will be back soon with some more interesting topics, and we wish you well, be kind, take care of your brain. Thank you.